You're listening to the Good Radio Network, radio that does a world of good.
Shall we begin?
Why not? Welcome to Frankie Sense and More. It's like she's got a whole lot of goodness for you with a little bit of sass.
Frankie, did you just say?
She sure did. Not to mention, along with...
Whoops.
Join us now as Frankie Picasso and her new co-host mix it up with authors, musicians, and interviews with world-changing people.
Let's begin, pal.
Okay, let's begin now, because it only makes sense.
Okay, yeah. It only makes sense to start right now. I got three beautiful people sitting in front of me. Welcome to Frankie Sense and More, everybody. Before I start the show today, I do want to give tribute. You'll see I am wearing a Maple Leaf hockey jersey, and many people across Canada today are wearing jerseys of any sports team that they feel an affinity for, because last week in Saskatchewan, a junior hockey team was on a bus going to a game, and a transport truck hit them, and 16 of the players or people associated with the team died, and another 14 were hospitalized. And you have to understand, I mean, it's a tragedy all the way around, but it's a little town. Humboldt, Saskatchewan is a little town of about 5,800 people. So everybody knew everybody, and it's just a tragic loss all the way around. One of the, if there's a good thing that could come out of it, 63 countries contributed to their GoFundMe campaign. This morning, I think there was over $9 million in that fund, and apparently it's going to take months and months for that money to be distributed. And I want to talk to my panel here today about that too, because there was a couple little things that came up and I was a little bit disappointed about, but we'll get to that in a little bit. Let me just introduce you to a happier moment in my day, and it's an absolute pleasure to introduce you all. And I think it's kind of a new paradigm shift that's happening. Maybe not new for those who are living it, but for those of us who are not quote unquote living with a disability. I don't think that when we think of someone in a wheelchair or someone who is blind, that our minds automatically go to, oh look, there goes an archery champion, like Alec Denys. Alec, raise your hand. Or, Jon Thurston, paraplegic who water skis. Or even Lynda Todd, who is legally blind and was a star of a documentary where she taught disabled people how to throw an axe competitively. I mean, I love it. She's too much. So, I might be jumping the gun by a few days, but next week begins National Volunteer Week. And all three of these great folks in front of me today volunteer and give their time to Active Together Adventures. Lynda and Alec are co-chairs and coordinators, and Jon is the curling coordinator for that program. And they encourage those with what Lynda calls inconveniences to get active, get out there and do things that they maybe aren't used to doing. And, also coming up, and one of the reasons for this particular show is that near the end of May into June 2nd, I think, is National Accessibility Week, which was first started by Rick Hansen. And Lynda is the 2018 chairperson for National Accessibility Week in Peterborough. So let's meet our guests and let's talk and look at what access looks like. Welcome.
Hi, Frankie.
Hi. Okay. Well, I'm going to start with well, first of all, Lynda was on Mission Unstoppable last week, and you guys got to know a little bit about her. So let's meet her partner here on her right, my left. Alec, you how did you guys meet?
We meet through the Active Together program. I was the coordinator when we had a grant, and Lynda was one of the participants. She moved into Peterborough and she started participating in some of the programs and activities that we were offering. So that's how we met.
So there's a number of programs in Peterborough right now. I believe there's that fall under a bigger heading, in that the what is it, the disability. Peterborough, is it the Peterborough Disability? I'm so bad with those acronyms and stuff. What was it?
Council for Persons with Disability.
There we go. Council for Persons with Disability. So you have that AIM, is it AIM or Tim's program, I believe, where people can walk a mile in your shoes for a day. And the program that you guys were talking about just a moment ago.
So the two programs that CDP offers, Council for Persons with Disabilities, is Active Together and Time in My Shoes.
Time in My Shoes, that was it. And that program, Time in My Shoes, did not get any money this year. Is that correct?
No, actually the opposite. So Time in My Shoes is funded by the Ontario Trillium Foundation, and that provides funding for programs to be developed, and we go into schools and teach children and the teachers living in our shoes. So there's kind of 4 sections of visibility, hearing, intellectually challenged, and mobility. And so there's it's very welcomed in the schools. The students are great teachers. And then Active Together is about getting people that face adversity out of their homes and doing different activities. And that's the program that we don't have any funding for at all. And when the funding ran out, Alec and I decided that we would work together and continue that program, continue offering it, because it is a really needed and valued program.
How many participants are in that program right now?
I guess it depends on the events that we put on. So we have a monthly event, and there's about approximately 15 people or so that come out on a regular basis. And then it depends what else that we can get out. There's about, 60 people in the Active Together as far as participants registered. And it's free, people just have to get to know about it and come in and let us know, and we'll let them know about when events are scheduled. And everybody with a self-identified issue is welcome to come.
So, Alec, did Alec encourage you to do archery, Lynda, or were you already doing it?
No, I definitely wasn't doing it. And Alec had arranged an archery, and that was the second day I moved into Peterborough when I did the big when I did the big splat in the cement on leaving archery. So that was the first time I had done it, and that was Alec's.
You have a very impressive looking weapon, Alec. I'm going to call it a weapon because it is. It looks like it's like, wow. What is that called?
Well, it's a competition bow. It's a target bow, but it's a compound bow. So it has the advantage, mechanical advantage, so that when you're in full draw, you're holding maybe only 80% of the full weight of the bow. So
okay.
That mechanical advantage.
You are an exceptional. Is it an archerist? I don't know what they call you, but I know that you got a perfect score. Was it like 40 times or something? You got it perfect?
Well, no, it's so that particular target. There's a number of different targets. That was an indoor. It's called the International Federation of Archers. So that particular score is the 10 ring is a certain size. That's actually a 5 points. So if you shoot all 60 arrows, shoot all 5s, you get a 300. But then inside of that is, I guess, what they call the X ring or the bullseye, and that's used to break ties. So out of the 60 arrows, I shot 48 of those that were inside that bullseye.
There's like a blush going on there, like, oh, I just did it, like couldn't help myself.
Something he's not mentioning is that his bow is 100-pound bow.
Wow.
Not quite, 60 pounds.
60 pounds.
Yeah.
So at last, a couple weeks ago at archery, I tried pulling it, and he told me I would not be able to, and he was right.
Yeah, that's a lot of weight.
Couldn't make it twinge.
Have you always been in a wheelchair, or what happened to you? What's your story?
I was 29 years old when I took up deer hunting for the first time with a bow. So I just started shooting a bow, and I took up deer hunting, and there was my second time out. I was climbing into the tree stand when the branch I was standing on broke. And I fell not very far, only 7 feet, but I landed on sort of my head and shoulders, and that was enough to get a compression fracture of the spine. So that was
unfortunate event. Yeah.
1979, long time ago.
79. Wow. And were you by yourself, or hopefully you were with somebody?
I was hunting with somebody who was at the other end of the property, so it was about 3 hours before.
Oh my goodness! Wow.
When the hunt was finished.
Would time have made a difference for you?
I don't think so, because at that time, they didn't have the techniques they have now. So if somebody suffers a spinal cord injury now, they get them to the hospital as fast as possible, and they immediately do cooling of the area in the spine that's injured, damage. But they didn't really have that technique back in 1979, so I don't think it would have made a difference.
Yeah, yeah. I was talking to Rick Hansen a couple weeks ago, and he kind of said the same thing, that, you know, if it happened today, it might make a difference. But yeah. Interesting though. Okay, so you've been in a chair for quite a while, and I was in a chair for a little while. I was in a motorcycle accident, and I was in a hospital 6 months. So when I came out, I was in a chair for a while, and it's hugely disappointing in some ways when you go out into the community, and I'm sure that you've experienced many times over, more than I did, when you're sitting and you're trying to pay for something, or you're trying to do something, people are kind of looking everywhere but at you. It's like, hello, I'm here I am. I like to pay for this.
Yeah, that's what I found very difficult when I got out of rehab. I was in rehab for 4 months, and in rehab it's obviously very safe and accessible environment, and that was a real shocker when you leave for the first time. You know, so now you're a person with disability going into a world that's designed for the able-bodied, and it is shocking, and it's difficult the first time.
And for my biggest complaint, if anybody is listening and you're an architect or anything, the bathrooms, they put the disabled washroom at the very far end, and you have to maneuver your wheelchair to the very, very end of this washroom. And I found I had to take the feet off because it never would turn that corner and go in or anything. So, I mean, it's stupid, silly. And maybe if I had, you know, a professional wheelchair, it makes a difference. I don't know. But I had I was still at the hospital and in rehab. And so I had their big bulky one. I don't know. But I have to say that I know why you can do 100 pounds, because very, very good upper body strength is had from maneuvering that chair around and your body around in that.
Yeah, and it's not just maneuvering the chair around. Like one of the things I think about being a high performance athlete is that you get into a real discipline and regimen of training and good nutrition.
Yeah.
That helps tremendously when you need, you know, a lot from your upper body. So you need to be fit, and that makes such a difference in quality of life, like being able to transfer out of your chair. For instance, when I do sled skiing or skating, you have to transfer down low and then have to get back into your chair, right?
How do you do that? I mean, I have a really hard time just getting off the floor, getting to the floor. You know, bathtubs were hard. I was really lucky because I'd been just was on the Canadian National Dragon Boat team, and I had trained to be on the team. We were about to go to Shanghai when my accident happened, and so they said, "Oh my God, we've never seen a woman with such great triceps and be able to lift myself, you know, across the board and from bed to whatever." But that's long gone now, and I mean, I couldn't do it today. I can tell you that.
Yeah. So that's really the key, I think. When you have a disability, is to focus on those muscles and those abilities you still have, and make sure that you use those to the maximum.
That's why I like the word access. You know, the accessibility is ability. Like you said, concentrate on the abilities that you do have instead of those that you don't have anymore. Jon, you also are in a wheelchair. Can you tell us your story, please?
Yeah, I was 24 when I got injured. It was a workplace injury. I worked construction, and we were building a large commercial building when a freak storm came through, and the building actually collapsed.
Wow.
So I was there was 3 of us running out, and I was the last one, and the wall had collapsed out to the east where we ran out. And
was this in Peterborough or Toronto? Where were you?
Lindsay, Ontario.
Oh, in Lindsay. Okay.
Yeah. So in 2008. So yeah, the wall pinned me to the ground and crushed my spine from T11 down.
Oh my goodness.
And broke 5 ribs, punctured lung, and luckily everything, like the healthcare was amazing, the emergency responders and everything. They got me to Toronto very quick and got my spine stabilized and went from there, and went to Lyndhurst for rehab, and then but yeah, that was how my injury happened.
I mean, the physical toll is one thing. The emotional is something totally else. And, you know, it's not easy to get to where I think you two are today. You know, you look forward to events, you're out there, you're doing your physical. But how difficult was it for you, Alec, after your accident to, you know, become emotionally invested and go, okay, I'm going to live like with this? A lot of people don't want to live with it. A lot of people say, no, I'm not going to stick around for this. I don't like it.
Yeah, and you certainly see that. Like, I was in the rehab with 8 other folks that had recent spinal cord injuries. And I think what made the huge difference for me was that the second day I was in the hospital, I woke up and my sister, my big sister, had come down and she said to me, "What have you got yourself into this time?" And it really made me realize, you know, when I thought about it, yeah, you know, I did this to myself and I needed to find a way out. So it was, so I had you know, that sort of epiphany, and I had an amazing attitude then that says, I'm finding my way out. I'm not going to be limited by this. You know, I'm going to do as much as I can. So right from the start, like right from the second day, I was really focused on getting better as opposed to focusing on what I had lost. So I think for me, that made a huge difference. Like, I was only in rehab for 4 months. Actually, it could have been 3 months, but I stayed an extra month longer to learn how to walk with long leg braces and crutches. So I was able to do that for 28 years. So that, so I just stayed in the hospital. Actually, I stayed at the university and just commuted to the hospital there in Kingston to learn how to walk with braces. So it was a very quick rehab for me.
I just want to mention, I don't know, Lynn Tetra's in the audience on Facebook, and she's having trouble hearing us. Oh, it's working now, Lynn? Perfect. Okay, good.
Awesome.
Yay. She was having some troubles, but I know that after the show, if you ever have problems, it'll always, the video is working. I can see it's working. I can see us on there. So there is a little delay though, usually from this side to that side. But other than that, that's okay. So you recognized early, I mean, a lot of people go to victim very quickly, right? They go to victim very quickly. Oh, woe is me. What am I going to do with the rest of my life? I'm going to be a burden. I can't do anything now. And yeah, it's up to me. You got it right away.
Yes, and there's lots of resources to help you on that way. You just gotta. I think one of the probably the biggest barriers that I found was expectations that other people had of me. So once you're disabled, the expectations are extremely low.
Yeah.
Like, they don't expect you to go back to work. They don't expect you to be a member, you know, to be involved in sports, right? So you really have to challenge other people to say, hey, don't limit me with your expectations. I'll decide what I'm capable of and how much I can do.
I love that. I love it.
That was one of the biggest barriers that I faced. I thought it was, you know, much more so than the physical environment, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, I can totally see that. And Lynn, I'm going to get to you in a minute, but Jon, how are you?
Along the,
you're a young guy.
Like, after my injury, it was family and friends. Just I knew I had a great network of support right after injury, and kind of got really into the physical part of it. Just, I wanted to be independent with transferring and everything, so worked a lot at keeping my strength and everything, and have continued that. And I think that's a huge part of it, because you want to be as mobile as you can, and you're always in a different situation, especially when you're trying new things. And you always want to be able to physically do it, if you want to try different things.
Like, was there a day when it hit you, you go, oh my God, I'm never going to walk. I'm never going to walk again? Like, did that day come, and what happened?
Yeah, I mean, it did come to me, but I worked really hard on trying to recover whatever I could after my injury. So did some therapy down in the States and stuff, and didn't know what would come back, but I wanted to give it a good shot. And then I found sports, and that just opened a whole new world up again. You get to meet other people with disabilities and get to hear their story, get to learn from them, and you get that social aspect back in your life, and then you get to compete again. Like, I found curling, and I fell in love with it. It's just such a fun sport.
I heard that you're water skiing now.
I just got back from Florida. So I was down there for 8 days with it was a water ski wakeboard Canada reach out camp. So it was kind of trying to find people interested, trying to get people interested in water skiing, whether it's just recreationally and you know, anything down the line, maybe competing for Canada kind of thing. So
how does that work? Tell me, how does that, I can't visualize it yet. So
yeah, so you sit in they call it a cage. So it's a seat cage.
Okay.
It's basically a metal frame and it has a fabric sling on it. And that is mounted to a water ski, which the sit ski is a little wider than an average
Got it.
water ski. And then it's bolted on and you sit in it, and then it has a foot strap that your feet go in. And depending on your ability, usually when you start, you'll be in the water and you'll have a side skier with you, so like an able body in water skis.
Yeah. They'll
tow beside you and they'll help you get up. Because the hardest part was definitely getting up by yourself independently. So that's something that I worked really hard on. I had done it a little bit before I came to this camp or went to that camp. So
that's a lot of upper body strength to get up.
Yeah, and technique. I think techniques. It is.
Are there women doing it?
Yeah. There's quite a few. So
nice.
I was surprised. There's quite a few different classes that are in the sport, competitive wise, and there's a men and women for both. So
very good.
Yeah.
Well, Lynda, if you didn't see Lynda last week, Lynda was born legally blind. She started off riding horses, and her parents gave her a motorized go-kart, and so she drives, which I love.
Not on public roads now.
I have a daughter-in-law who won't drive because people don't want me on the road. And I'm like, well, okay. It's so funny. But you are involved in so many things. And like, I found out that Lynda is an adrenaline junkie. And if it says, you know, she could get hurt, she's in. She's like, yeah, I'm there. Fall off a mountain? Okay, good. No, seriously though. Lynda, you're doing an amazing job volunteering and creating safe spaces for people to get involved. And, you know, really like what a great champion you are for those with inconveniences.
The Active Together program, Alec and I feel really strongly how important it is, you know, to get people out of their homes. Many people don't have they may not even have the income to participate in events, and they may not have the organizational skills. And, you know, to have a good, safe environment, we are all capable of doing just about everything, and sometimes with modifications, you know.
Right.
Archery, there's some modifications that have been done so that, you know, one gentleman only had one arm, you know, so Alec developed a device so that he could come and shoot.
Wow.
So we try to make every idea that we come up with, we don't want anybody to not be able to participate in some way.
Love
and
that.
It's so important to get for so many reasons, you know, the health, the physical activity, the mental health, you know, the group that are getting together, we've seen how they've melded, and people who didn't really talk at first, and now, wow, you can't get a word in edgewise. You know, everyone's, it's made, I'm not sure who's gotten more out of it, you know, me or the people that come, because it just, I'm definitely passionate about it.
You know, how difficult was it to get them to come out for the first time?
There was emails. Alec and I phoned everybody. That for the first 2 or 3 months, we would phone and encourage, text, you know, just kind of constant reminders, and then word would spread. You know, someone may tell a friend, and now they just, you know, now we find we don't even have to call anymore. They just arrive.
They just arrive. I just want to give a shout out to the room here. Adriana, hi, and Himanish, thanks for joining us today. That's great. You know, I'm imagining, because I don't know, but I'm imagining that when people come out for the first time, they want to tell their story. Do they want to tell their story? Do they want to talk about what happened to them, or
No.
they just want to get involved?
No, just no. We don't ask. We don't ask what, because sometimes their disability, their inconvenience is you can't see what it is,
Right.
and we don't ask. No, no one really divulges or has to divulge. Or I know in the last month we met, and I did get talking with one gentleman, and he told me, but that's been after several months. It's not expected, or but there are some fascinating stories that people have pushed themselves through.
I can absolutely imagine that. What are they asking for? Like, what kinds of events are people asking for now? I mean, they've experienced the archery and the curling. What else are they? Are they sailing? Are you sailing? Are you dragon boating? Are you, like, what are you doing? Or what do they want?
But I mean,
How can we help?
they like to try everything, and it's just, we're trying to do things that as many people can participate in as possible. So, some of the activities aren't conducive to some of the people with their limitations. So we're trying to find something that at least the majority can participate in. So it is, it's a little bit difficult to try to find something beyond that, but they just want to experience new things. So anything that we do is new is something that they want. We did billiards, for instance, just recently, and we had a really good turnout for billiards. So folks are interested in that. Archery, everybody loves archery, and that's no bias on my part. It's just something like do. And wheelchair curling is something else, John, that people really like to try.
Yeah.
So.
Golf is next on the list.
Yeah, we're gonna try.
We're gonna do golfing, and even cooking classes. We're gonna arrange a cooking class. So not everything is necessarily physical,
Right.
because there's the social aspect, and many people don't necessarily know how to cook good, healthy meals, or simple meals, or meals for one.
Right. Yeah.
So it's really whatever idea anyone comes up with, and we try to make it work.
Are you providing any hookups, like dating stuff?
No, that's not my forte.
No, we'll leave that to the computer sites for that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If any of that's going on, we don't know about it.
Oh, that's funny. That's funny. So what's happening? Are you doing a volunteer week activity next week for the National Volunteer Week? Will you be doing that? Or are you going to go right to National Accessibility?
Yeah, we're focused on National Accessibility Week, so we're going to try a different format. The format that we've had before was that we would have sort of one event where we would have the politicians make the declaration that this is, Accessibility Week. We're doing a different format, so we're trying to get local businesses and services involved so that we get a whole range of activity during the whole week. So for instance, the Pet Value is going to put on a dog grooming clinic for guide dogs that week. We've got the Archery Club providing sort of instruction for visually impaired archers. So we're hoping to get as many businesses and services involved where they do a focus on inclusion. So including people with disability as part of their events and sort of showcasing their accessibility and their inclusiveness. So
I like that.
That's what we're doing, producing that calendar of events, and then hopefully, give people a whole menu of things that they can do during the whole week. And really the other point is to showcase that Peterborough is a very accessible community, and very inclusive.
Well, Peterborough is an interesting, place. You do have the water, and you do have, the land, I guess, and I love Peterborough. Actually, I haven't been for a little while, but I like to go out there because it's fun. There's some native galleries out there I really like to go to, and a lot of history out there, I think. So it's a pretty cool little town. How many people live there now? Keep calling it a little town because I live in a big city here. How many people are there now?
I think it's close to 80,000 now. I know it was 78.
Oh, it's still little. Okay. It's not Humboldt at 5,000, but it's still little.
Yeah.
Yeah. What about, are you doing any like skiing activities or snowboarding or anything like that? Have you tried anything like that, John?
I haven't. As far as winter sports, you mean? No.
Skating.
Tried skating. Yeah. Alec got me at skating.
Nice.
Tried that. I haven't tried skiing with him, so that'll be next year. Get out skiing with him.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, curling keeps you pretty busy in the winter. So.
Do you get experts, Alec, from different organizations to come and help with showing people how to do things like skating or skiing or?
No, I mean, I have experience in a lot of these types of things, so it's just introducing them, right? If somebody wants to get competitive, and yeah, they're gonna have to go to a more expert coach, but my whole focus is just introducing people to different things. So we do cross country skiing or para skiing. It's done similar to the skating on the sledge, like a sit down sledge. So that's something that's a great sport too. So I know the basic techniques. Actually, in para skiing, para Nordic, I've been out to a training camp in Canmore. There at one point in time in my career, I was considering doing that competitively. So I was invited out to a development camp. So I did learn a lot at those camps. So, you know, I impart that knowledge, but
so I guess you could do a biathlon, couldn't you, with the archery and the cross country in a Olympic kind of setting?
Yeah, they do biathlon, but we don't have the facilities at our club to do biathlon. So
Do they do para biathlon?
yeah, they do para biathlon. Yeah,
That'd be kind of fun, actually,
Yeah.
yeah.
if you were young and in shape.
That's good. I hear it's hard work, so I started with the skating first.
The billiards is just an excuse to drink beer, is that it?
You could be old and in shape too, remember? Yeah.
Yes, you can.
Don't exclude us older guys.
But I think the way Alec did, like learning with him to skate, just knowing personally, like it still takes a while to learn how to skate. Like the balance was hard. I'm still trying to learn how to turn and everything. So I think just getting out on the ice and getting the exposure and Alec giving tips on technique is a great way to start.
Yeah, getting up was difficult. Yeah.
It was tough too, but I think it's a great way to start, just to get out and I think everybody's disability is a little different, so everybody has kind of a different way that they make it work, kind of thing.
What about age group? Do you have kids out, or is it mostly adults that you guys are working with?
18 and up basically is.
Yeah.
So mainly adults is the Active Together group.
I know that you talk in schools, and I've heard different people say, "Oh my God, if that happened to me, my life is over. I'd kill myself. I couldn't go on." And I often say, well, you don't know what you can put up with or what you can do until you're forced or faced with it, truly. But did either of you think that way before you had your accident? Was that a thought that ever crossed your mind? Did you ever think, oh, I'm lucky to be able-bodied, or?
It didn't really. Like, I didn't have a lot of exposure to people in wheelchairs in my circle of friends or family, so I don't particularly remember having that thought. And yeah, I'm along the same lines as you. Like, you never know how you respond to something until you're put in that situation.
Yeah, it's funny because like both my husband and my son work commercial construction, and that's a thought that they think about a lot is what would happen if, or how can we keep it safer, and what can we do here, because people fall off and do stupid stuff all the time, and at workplaces accidents are very, very common, even though they're not supposed to be.
Yeah.
The one difference between John and I is, like, we have an injury, right? And the focus there can be getting better.
Mm-hmm.
Even though, yes, I'm going to be in a wheelchair, I can get better and better at how I use the wheelchair and how I adapt to the wheelchair and getting into sports. Where if somebody has some sort of a chronic disease and it's actually getting worse and worse,
right,
that is a totally different type of thing. So
that's true.
Be very positive, because we can say, okay, let's try something. We're going to get better. We're going to get better at this. We're going to do something different.
You're not in pain at all, either of you?
Pardon?
Do you have pain? Like, do you have any pain with your injury?
Yeah.
Oh, you do? Oh, you do?
Yeah, quite a bit in my injury site and all around and everything.
Yeah, but it's just something you get used to.
Yeah.
And like it's been 36 years for me, and you mention it now and I say, oh yeah, I have pain, but otherwise I wouldn't even think about it.
You don't think about it.
Yeah.
No.
That's amazing. You
Yeah.
guys are incredible. So I know that, Lynda kind of had a bucket list of things that she wants to do with her life. What about you? Do you have anything on your bucket list, Jon, that is next? You want to like go, parasailing or something, or?
Well, I did parasailing when I was able-bodied, and it wasn't amazing for me. Like it's not very adrenaline rush like. I'd like to skydive. I bungee jumped when I was able-bodied. That was amazing. Yeah, skydiving would be cool, and you get better at this. I really enjoyed the water skiing, so I'd like to improve and try.
When I got out of the hospital, there was I think it's called parachute, and it's like a machine that goes up with a parachute, and it's kind of like you're flying with a little engine. And I always wanted to do that.
Paragliding.
Is that like
it's not a glider, though.
Skydiving? Is that what you mean?
No.
Pardon me?
Like the indoor skydiving?
No. You go up. It's like it has like a parachute on it, but it's not a glider, but it has a motor, and it's like a little flying machine kind of thing. It's
okay.
cool.
I know what you mean. Yeah.
Yeah, you sort of lay on it flat out.
Or you can sit, and two people, you can sit tandem and go up too.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that'd be neat.
Yeah, I thought that would be kind of a fun thing to try. For
don't
those adrenaline junkies out there.
Yeah, I
No
don't have
bucket list?
I don't have a bucket list. No, I just have an open mind. So if
I
some
love it.
opportunity,
He's up for anything. Try anything once.
that's exactly. Opportunity presents itself, I'll try it.
Beautiful.
Oh, yeah. Lynn says she's sure that bungee jumping with a wheelchair could be done, but the impact on the body might not be recommended.
If you watched the Rick Mercer show,
Yes.
had Rick Hansen bungee jumping on one of the shows.
Yeah.
Oh, did he?
And
Wow.
I think Rick Mercer did it too.
Rick Mercer did it too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they both did it.
Wow.
Like when I bungee jumped able body, it's not very much impact on you.
Oh, it isn't? It feels like it would be like a huge impact on your
It's
body.
real gentle. You come down, you kind of stop, and then it gently pulls you back up and springs you. So you
Doesn't
don't-
look gentle to me. And Alec, you're traveling the world. Where are you going? Tell us about all the places you've been.
Oh, I've been involved in Paralympic sport on the national team since 1983. So there's not.
Are you a
much-
coach for some teams?
Pardon?
Are you a coach for some teams?
I was a coach last year for the Invictus Games, which
Okay.
was the Wounded Soldier program.
Yeah.
So I help, but I don't have I'm not into coaching yet because I'm still an active athlete. So I'm still on the national team. So yeah, I've traveled. I don't think there's any continent that I haven't been to in most countries. So
Wow.
I've been to, I think about 12 world championships or 13 world championships.
And you just came home with a bronze, didn't you?
No.
No? Am I not reading this correctly?
Oh,
Yeah,
sorry.
The Ontario Winter Games.
We were at the Ontario Winter Games for curling.
curling.
That was a bronze medal.
Oh, okay.
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 Yeah.
Thank
sorry.
you, Linda. Thank you.
He's got so many, he
Oh my
can't
God.
keep track.
Total idiot. Yeah.
It's a good problem to have.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can't remember them all. I'm sorry. Wow, that's pretty exciting. And what about, are you traveling, Jon? I know that you just said you came back from Florida water skiing, but are you looking at
A little bit, traveled a bit. Well, water skiing, yeah, I was in Florida, so Winter Haven, we were there for 8 days water skiing. Curling was pretty busy year this year. I was in Edmonton in September and Green Bay, Wisconsin in October. That was with the national program, and then it was actually really cool. We got the Continental Cup was in London, Ontario this year, so we got to play on the ice and got a little TSN time and everything. So
nice. Yeah.
experience.
So is there a country that you want to go to?
Yeah, I mean, I'd like to jump the pond. I think go over to Europe and see, Great Britain, Ireland, all that, Scotland, and even farther, Australia. So
So the
Yeah.
Commonwealth.
yeah.
Okay. All right. I know Linda's going to go mountain climbing in Utah.
Yep, I'm looking forward to that.
And what, anything across the pond or any other country that you're looking forward to going to?
No, I'll steal Alec's line. I'll just keep my options open.
There you go.
So I'm really, whenever I see an opportunity, I just, yeah, let's do that. So
How are you raising money? I mean, the government's not giving you any money for your program. So how are these things funded? Or is it just personally funded by each individual? Is that pretty much how it's going?
yeah, it's personally funded, or we approach businesses and we explain the situation. And so usually businesses cut us a real break. The Peterborough businesses have been very accommodating. So that's been great. And we are searching and hoping for funding or sponsorships. We're open to anything when it comes to money for this program and keep it going, because that's going to open more options. There are some things that there are definitely costs, and there's transportation issues for some of the people as well.
Sure. Yeah. Now, does anybody have a dog in your group? Does anybody come with a seeing eye dog?
No.
Nobody? Okay.
I think I'm the only,
Visually impaired.
yeah, I'm the only.
You're the only visually impaired person?
Yeah.
Wow, you're dangerous. Just teasing you. The chairs that both of you are in, how expensive can they get, and how long do they last?
Well, the chair that I have currently was $6,200, just a manual chair. So,
Wow.
yeah, they try to make it lightweight, and they say there's a lot of expense in the design. So chairs are typically $6,000 plus. They'll last usually 5 years, John?
Yeah, that's a lifetime. Like if you get a lifetime warranty on a wheelchair, they consider it 5 years. So.
Wow. So that's a lot of money. And who helps you pay for those?
Well, the Ontario have the ABIILITIES, which is the Adaptive Assistive Devices Program.
Yep. So
they will pay 75% of eligible equipment. So it could include wheelchairs, includes walkers, all kinds of assistive devices.
Crutches, yeah, all kinds of assistive devices.
So
and will it retrofit your car if you want to drive, or?
No,
No.
You'd have to go through like a March of Dimes or something like that for funding for accessible ride.
So the funding that you're looking for this program, though, is event funding. Is that?
Yeah, it's event funding. So definitely Active Together is our focus right now. Presently, our upcoming focus is National Accessibility Week. It's not about fundraising, Accessibility Week. It's strictly about education and awareness, getting businesses to open up their doors to show that they are accessible, and especially those that may offer some form of sport, so that the able-bodied and those that may live with a disability can come and enjoy it, maybe, and introduce themselves to something new and showcase kind of both sides.
So you've lived in Peterborough a long time, Alec, have you?
No, I moved here. I work with the Ministry of Natural Resources, so I moved over to the province. So I moved here in 2006, I believe it was.
Okay. I was with the government too. Did you ever do the Wolf Watch in Peterborough with M&R?
The Wolf Watch, I did that in Algonquin Park, but not here in Peterborough, but in Algonquin Park I did that, yeah.
Very cool, yeah. Okay, so I'm just wondering, since you've been there since 2006, it's now 18, how much change have you seen as far as accessibility with the businesses in town? Like, what kind of growth have you seen and witnessed?
Yeah, the Peterborough area, if I go back even further, when I was first injured, so going back to 1979, 1980, there's been a tremendous amount of work done with respect to accessibility in the physical environment. By that, I mean ramps and curb cuts and audible traffic signals and those types of things. So a tremendous amount of work has been done in that area. The problem, a lot of the issue still is with, there's accessibility, there's inclusion.
Yeah.
For instance, when I went back to work They made the office accessible in the fact they put a ramp in where there were stairs. And I got an office on the bottom floor. The issue, of course, was that the rest of my unit was on the second floor. There's no elevator. The meeting room were on the second floor, and the coffee room was in the basement. So the building was accessible, but it certainly was not inclusive, and then I couldn't
Right.
participate in coffee breaks. If there was a meeting upstairs, I'd have to dial in, you know.
Oh my gosh.
So, but I mean, that was 1980, right? So, and then as the Trillium grant grew, there was lots more funding available through Trillium for businesses and private sector to start acquiring grants to do that. So there's been a tremendous amount of work in that area. And I think, you know, when I think of the Peterborough Curling Club, they didn't have a lift to the lounge area until, you know, one of my predecessors, Carl, started curling there, and then it was in no time at all they had that. And in our club now, they're putting in accessible doors, like the automatic door openers. So, you know, once you start participating and being included in those types of activities, there's grants available, and it's a lot of the businesses and clubs are very, very proactive in seeking out grants and making those changes to make the club very, very inclusive. So I think
that.
you agree with me that the Peterborough Curling Club is a fantastic club with respect to being inclusive for people with disabilities.
Yeah, it's been amazing. They really just adopted us right into their curling club, and you know, we're just like another member there. We play full league games, and you know, everything just works. Like it's great. It's a really accessible club, and
Is there anyone in town that you go, oh my gosh, I wish they would just get up to date. I wish they would, you know, fix something so I could go in there or do something.
Well, there's 2 bowling alleys in Peterborough, and neither one's like our Active Together group, unless we exclude everybody with a mobility issue. And mobility issue isn't just in a wheelchair.
Sure.
Walkers or can't do stairs. And so both those facilities have extremely either steep stairs going down or steep stairs going up. And
yeah,
that's kind of the first one that comes to
mind.
mind.
Yeah, the one's in the basement and the other one's on the second floor. So
yeah. You know,
plus the theater, the movie theaters, they're good usually.
Yeah, they're good.
So the thing is, I think there's options. Like there's some restaurants, of course, that aren't accessible, but it's very, very difficult for some of the older buildings to become accessible because they obviously can't put a big ramp out onto the sidewalk because that would obstruct all the pedestrian traffic. So, but I find that a lot of the businesses, they do have portable ramps. So if I go to a certain restaurant, you know, and make it known that I would like to come in, they have a portable ramp, they put it out and they help you up.
Oh, that's nice. I like that.
Yeah.
There was a really cool video. I can't remember. It was a couple years ago where it was almost like an escalator stair that went down, but then when people wanted to come, it would open, and then, you know, it would start to rise and this escalator, this ramp or whatever would go. That was very cool. I mean, you can be ingenious. It costs money.
There you go. Yeah.
So like I say, there's lots and lots of changes made in the physical environment. And really where we need to work on, I think, is in sort of the attitudes of people. So, you know, a lot of people, when they see a person in a wheelchair, they make some automatic assumptions, right? First impressions. So they'll assume that you're in a wheelchair, oh, you're not healthy. So there's something wrong with your health. Whereas John and I can attest that, yes, we're in a wheelchair, but we're very, very healthy. Like we've got health. There's lots of concern, you know, people would say, oh, they're dependent. So, you know, an example I use is I went to the bank when I first came to Peterborough, and I was going to deposit a check. So I put the check on the counter, and right away the cashier there asked the lady behind me whether I would like cashed in my checking or savings account. So the assumption was that I had a caregiver with me, right?
Right.
Those are still some of the attitudes that we need to work on. And, you know, I think things like the Paralympic Games are a fantastic way that the whole part of the Paralympic movement is they want to turn the focus from the disability to the ability.
Right.
What they're doing is showcasing ability instead of disability. So I think that's really powerful, and it's come a long way to make people realize that, hey, person in a wheelchair don't have expectations that they're not going to be able to do certain things, right? And that's really where we want to get is, yes, there's certain limitations, but certainly there's lots and lots of ability.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
also the focus of Council for Persons with Disabilities, the organization that, we represent. It's about providing an opportunity for those with a disability and to get involved in things and also provide understanding and education to complete Peterborough County, and across.
It sounds to me like you, and I might be wrong, but I think I might be right, that you guys are really at the forefront of something, that you're spearheading that a community in ways that other communities are going to want to follow suit if they're not already. So are you being reached out to by other communities right now and going, how are you doing this? And how can I be like you guys?
Not at this point.
No.
Well, you will.
Now, maybe not here, that may change. Who knows?
Yeah, I think the work that you guys are doing is absolutely fantastic, and I'm not sure how we're going to get attitudes to change, Alec, but certainly like with anything, because I'm working on compassion for animals and things like that. I think it starts with young people. It starts with in the schools, because they're the easiest minds to change, and they tend to teach their grown-up parents, no, don't say that, don't think like that, it's not right, it's not correct, you're wrong. And I see a lot of that happening.
When we go into the schools and do that teaching, the kids are amazing, with the TIMS program. And so we are, it is one of the things, it's where, you start kind of from the ground or the young up to change attitudes.
Yeah.
And we're not necessarily even having to change attitudes, we just have to expand their knowledge and give them further understanding. Just because someone's visually impaired doesn't mean that they're deaf. There's a lot of assumptions like that.
Right, yeah.
And so,
like John had to talk louder because he was in a chair, and
Yeah.
I'm way over here. And
or visually impaired doesn't mean
We were pretty far away. I thought I'd yell. I don't know.
But I think
Yeah.
one of the ways that we change attitudes is just by getting out into the community and showing abilities, right? Like when I go grocery shopping, I'm out in the community doing my own grocery shopping, and I think that changes people's attitudes. Simple little things like that, The fact that we're curling in the curling club, there's lots and lots of people that see us curling, and that changes attitudes too. So I think the fact that we're just out there and we're being able doing things that we're doing has a huge impact on people.
how many people come up and ask you if they can help you while you're grocery shopping?
Daily. It's daily. And people do it out of the kindness of their heart, but
Right. Like, do you have a reacher for the top shelves, or when you go?
That's when I take advantage and ask somebody to help me.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's about the only time. Can you
John-
grab that for me?
John and I are both
Top shelf.
bachelors, so yeah, we take advantage of that.
We do.
they wait for the right woman to come along,
Yeah.
and then
Exactly. Could you feel those for me? Tell me if they're all right. We're on here.
I didn't know you knew my tricks.
Yeah. Well, they're there for sure. That's hilarious. Oh my gosh. Well, you guys are really certainly something special, and I am so glad that I got to meet all of you. And Lynda, for this being in charge of National Accessibility Week in Peterborough, like that's a huge honor and a huge role for you. Did you volunteer for that, or did you? I would feel like I'll do it.
Actually, no. It
You were
is
nominated.
an honor. I do work with a committee of a variety of people, but no, I actually didn't honor. I was appointed.
Nice.
I also am the communication coordinator for Council for Persons with Disabilities, so I was appointed the position, and I was like, oh, this is huge. But it's fun. It's working out beautifully. We've expanded the program, and I'm really looking forward to it. And the committee has worked hard.
Yeah. I just have another question. In that TIMS program, do you bring wheelchairs or different kinds of things for
Yes.
people to sit in and try and see how could I do it?
Yeah, and that's where the Trillium funding comes in.
Yeah.
Too, that it provides the opportunity that if chairs need to be rented, or a lot of times they can be borrowed from other organizations.
Mm-hmm.
And there is an outreach coordinator for the TIMS program, that does organize all of that. But there are costs involved because a lot of the volunteers that go into the schools, they're long distances, and so transportation has to be arranged. Sure. But we take all the chairs and even visual aid devices and with different mobility devices.
So you're the only sighted person or non-sighted person, I guess, or visible sighted challenge person. I don't know what we're going to call you. Are there any deaf people in your group?
So I'm not the only visually impaired in the TIMS program that goes into schools.
Okay.
There's a few of us that do that.
Okay.
And there is a deaf section and the mobility section, and then the intellectually challenged, or the more like the invisible things that people may challenge if they're, say, autistic or ASD. There's different things that deal with. So there's that area. I haven't actually been able to attend in the hearing section because I'm always, teaching in the visual section.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure what, I know that they put headphones on everybody so that they can't hear.
Yep.
And then we'll play, read things and see what people, because the hearing's muffled or they can't hear. And so it's, it's showing people how someone with a hearing impairment, is not included in conversations and what that's like to deal with.
It's tough.
Yes.
It's tough. Like you get, you tune out because you can't hear. And so you become more isolated.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And being visually impaired, 90% of communication really is, a lot of it is body language.
Right.
And then the second part is, of course, people talking. And so especially if someone is dealing with, say, visual and hearing, and it might, even if it's not 100, complete in both, but it does take away. And so it's just trying to educate people, facing when if someone's hearing impaired, talking to them, not turning your head, or
right.
It's just simple things that can make things a lot easier.
So if somebody's listening today and they want to get in touch with you, they have a family member or they themselves want to become involved, how can they do that?
They can go to the Council for Persons with Disabilities website and email. So my email is Lynda, Lynda, @pcpd.ca. They can also go on the website and subscribe to the newsletter that comes out monthly. And that gives an overview of the TIMS program and any achievements that CPD does each month.
This Council with Persons with Disabilities, there must be a lot of those websites, kind of. Is there a specific?
PCPD.
Yeah, so
PCPD.
Council for Persons with Disabilities. So PC.
Yeah, and if you're listening anywhere really in the world and you want to replicate the wonderful work that these three are doing, certainly reach out to Lynda or Alec or John, and I'm sure they'll help you find your way.
Absolutely.
Yeah, well, thank you so much, the three of you, for being my guest today. Thanks, everybody in the chat room. That was really sweet of you to show up. We love that. And best of luck. And I'm going to wish you a happy volunteer week next week, because you're all volunteers. You are. And have a wonderful National Accessibility Week.
Thank you.
Thank you so
Thanks,
much.
Frankie.
Okay, I'm going to take us out of here. I'm going to stop our live stream. Bye, everybody in Facebook. We're going. And I'm going to